Beneath the rolling dunes of the Sahara, where heat warps the horizon and silence feels almost alive, lies a secret that was never meant to be unearthed. For centuries, explorers searched these lands for lost cities, Zerzura, Atlantis of the sands, but what they found in 2023 changed everything. It began with a satellite scan, part of a routine geological survey. Yet, hidden beneath nearly 40 meters of sand, researchers detected a symmetrical pattern, something that nature could never have made. As excavators descended, they uncovered the edges of a massive circular structure perfectly carved from sandstone, radiating like spokes of a wheel. But what truly froze them was not its design. It was the writing. Etched on the inner walls were symbols that didn't belong to any known language, neither Egyptian, Berber, nor Nubian. The patterns resembled constellations, but of stars that no longer exist. The team's instruments began to fail one by one. GPS signals flickered. The deeper they went, the colder the air became, impossibly cold for the desert. And then, one night, the camp's sound recorders captured something faint but undeniable, rhythmic vibrations, echoing from beneath the ground, like a pulse, a living heartbeat trapped within stone. Archaeologists from Cairo were called in. The official reports mention an ancient tomb complex, but the footage leaked by one of the workers before the feed was cut shows something different. Columns arranged in a circle, surrounding a black monolith that seemed to hum faintly when touched. The man's hand trembled on camera, and the moment his palm made contact, every torch in the chamber flickered and went out. His voice, when it returned, was not his own. The discovery was never announced. Within days, the site was sealed by military order. Researchers were recalled, and all mentions of the project vanished from archives. But whispers spread through archaeological circles of a structure that predates even Göbekli Tepe, built by hands that may not have been human. Meanwhile, across the Mediterranean, another excavation stirred the same unease. Off the coast of Greece, divers stumbled upon an entire cityscape buried beneath coral and time. The pillars and streets resembled ancient Mycenaean design, but the materials were alien. Black stone that absorbed light, magnetic signatures that distorted compasses, and walls engraved with spiral symbols identical to those found under the Sahara. Coincidence? Or a buried network of civilizations long erased from history? One diver reported seeing carvings depicting creatures with elongated limbs, standing around a flame-like device, something that looked mechanical, not mythical. He recorded one fragment before communication cut. When retrieved hours later, his oxygen tank was intact, but the man's eyes were open and glassy, fixed on the dark. Experts dismissed it as decompression trauma, but the footage, grainy, unstable, shows a shimmer of movement behind him, like a shadow drifting through water. When enhanced, the figure looked almost curious. Back in Egypt, rumors began to spread of strange atmospheric interference over the sealed Sahara site. Planes avoided the area. Satellites captured faint bursts of electromagnetic noise, patterned like Morse code. But the message was not in any known language, just two recurring symbols, circles and lines matching the carvings found under the sand. By early 2024, 3 separate expeditions across Africa and the Mediterranean reported similar symbols, from the Algerian Tassili caves to Malta's hypogeum tunnels. The same motifs reappeared: spirals, constellations, and what some claimed was a depiction of a celestial map. One researcher connected the pattern to the Pleiades star cluster, but when plotted, it didn't match the modern formation. It matched the sky from 50,000 years ago. History as we know it trembled. Ancient astronaut theorists called it proof of pre-human intelligence. Academics dismissed it as pseudo-archaeology, but the physical evidence refused to vanish. Drone scans revealed geometric structures hidden beneath ice in Antarctica, again echoing the same design. Coincidence couldn't explain the precision. In a leaked voice note, a field researcher whispered, "They weren't gods, they were survivors." When asked to clarify, he said nothing more. Days later, he disappeared during a storm over Cairo, his files encrypted, but partially recovered, contained only one phrase written repeatedly: "They left something beneath the fire." Part 1 closes with the hum, that same deep frequency first recorded in the Sahara, now detected in 3 different continents simultaneously. Different time zones, same pulse. Something ancient had awakened. The hum grew louder. At first it was only detectable through seismic instruments, faint tremors beneath multiple continents, beating at perfect intervals. But within weeks, people began to hear it, not through their ears, but deep within their bones. A vibration that came at night, like a hidden pulse beneath the Earth's crust. It began near the Sahara site, then spread outward across the Mediterranean, through Europe, Asia, and beyond. Scientists struggled to classify it. The frequency was too low for natural origin, yet too stable to be geological. And what terrified them most was that each signal spike coincided with electrical disruptions across satellite networks, even military ones. By late February, the world's observatories detected something unprecedented. The magnetic north had begun to drift unnaturally fast, by nearly 4 kilometers per week. The last time Earth's poles behaved this way, the fossil record marked a mass extinction event. But in Cairo, One man believed it wasn't a natural phenomenon at all. His name was Dr. Omar El-Masri, the same researcher who had once overseen the Sahara excavation before it was shut down. He had kept fragments of the black sandstone in a sealed case. For months, he studied them in silence, until one night, his instruments began to glow with static blue light. The rock wasn't dead. It was reacting to something in the Earth's magnetic field. El-Masri realized the hum wasn't coming from the ground. It was being transmitted through it. In a desperate move, he contacted a small network of independent geophysicists who had also been tracking anomalies, one in Chile, another in Mongolia, and a final team stationed on the frozen coasts of Greenland. When they compared notes, the data aligned perfectly. The same pulse, the same frequency, the same hidden pattern. It wasn't random noise, it was a sequence. 12 short bursts, 3 long ones, then silence repeated every 8 hours. When plotted, the pattern formed a geometric design, almost like the spokes of a wheel. The same design carved beneath the sands of the Sahara. By now, governments around the world were quietly aware. Satellite imagery began to vanish from online databases. Entire datasets from NOAA, NASA, and the European Space Agency went dark without explanation. But leaks always find their way through. Amateur radio astronomers started intercepting the low-frequency bursts themselves. When decoded into visual spectrograms, they revealed something chilling, a symbol identical to the carvings found in Malta and Greece. Something, or someone, was trying to speak through the Earth itself. Meanwhile, far below the waves of the Aegean Sea, a team of marine archaeologists from Istanbul returned to the underwater ruins, the Black Stone City. Inside one chamber, they found strange spherical objects, no larger than fists, arranged in a circular pattern. They weren't artifacts, they were emitters, and when the divers approached, every sonar system went blind. For a moment the live feed showed static, then a frame of something that made the entire crew go silent. They never left. They're waiting beneath the water. Governments issued denials, no credible evidence, equipment malfunction, deep-sea distortion, but the pulse grew stronger. By early March, cities across Asia and Europe began reporting strange power surges synchronized to the frequency. Car alarms went off at the same moment, birds flew erratically in spirals, and compasses began twitching in unison. Then, for precisely 12 minutes, the entire GPS grid went down. Every navigation satellite glitched all at the same second. The only clue came from one amateur radio enthusiast in Finland. He had been recording electromagnetic data at the time of the blackout. When he converted the waveforms into sound, it produced a chilling pattern, a rhythm almost musical, like a chant buried in distortion. When slowed down 800%, the words became clear. In an unknown language, it repeated the same phrase. "We remember the fire." Archaeologists connected it instantly to the phrase carved under the Sahara site. They left something beneath the fire. Dr. El-Masri decoded the bursts again. He realized the signals weren't just broadcasting randomly, they were triangulating, forming coordinates. When plotted, the final intersection point landed in the Gulf of Aden, near an uncharted trench known locally as the Gate of Tears. Coincidence, perhaps, but satellite data confirmed a large metallic anomaly beneath those waters, something moving slowly through the ocean floor. And then, without warning, the hum stopped. For the first time in weeks, silence. The world exhaled until, 3 days later, a deep tremor was recorded simultaneously on every continent. Seismic instruments spiked, and underwater microphones detected something impossible. A low, mechanical grinding sound, like stone gates opening under immense pressure. Then came the second hum, lower, deeper, and older than the first. It resonated not just through machines, but through living tissue. Plants swayed without wind. Animals grew restless. And at certain locations, Malta, the Sahara, Chile, and Greenland, faint lights began to appear at night, hovering just above the surface, pulsing in time with the hum. Whatever slept beneath the earth was waking up. It began as a sound. At first it was dismissed as atmospheric interference, a low, resonant hum that traveled through the ground, captured by deep earth sensors beneath Iceland and the Pacific Rim. It was constant, rhythmic, not seismic, not tectonic, something else. Within weeks, geologists across 5 continents began reporting identical patterns, synchronized to the same pulsing frequency, 7.83 Hz, the Schumann resonance, the heartbeat of the Earth itself. But this time, something was amplifying it. When the hum intensified, the weather changed. Entire storm systems shifted course in ways the models couldn't explain. Typhoons stalled mid-ocean, the auroras grew brighter, unnatural shades of crimson and violet streaking the poles. And somewhere beneath the planet's crust, ancient mechanisms dormant for tens of thousands of years began to stir. No one knew yet that the activation had started in Kamchatka, under the frozen shadow of an active volcano named Klushevskaya Sobka, one of the most dangerous volcanic systems on Earth. The first to notice were Russian surveyors. Their magnetometers were behaving erratically. Instruments spiked without warning. Then, one morning, their seismic monitors recorded something impossible, a deep harmonic vibration emanating from 12 kilometers beneath the volcano, followed by a faint rhythmic pulse. It wasn't magma movement. It wasn't tectonic. It was mechanical. Satellite thermal imagery soon showed patterns, hexagonal heat anomalies expanding outward beneath the crust, forming near-perfect geometric symmetry. It looked designed. The footage was quietly classified, but not before a copy leaked onto an encrypted European server. When analysts decoded the imagery, one pattern stood out, a vast network of interconnected tunnels arranged in the shape of a spiral within a circle, radiating from the volcano's heart. It matched perfectly the carvings found on the basalt platform in Egypt. That was when Dr. Amelia Rourke, a climatologist turned geophysicist, stepped forward. She had been studying atmospheric energy fluctuations tied to the hum. Her team's models showed a disturbing trend. Each time the resonance spiked, localized magnetic storms erupted across Earth's ionosphere, subtly altering jet streams, pressure systems, and even rainfall. The planet's weather was being rewritten. But it wasn't random. It was following a pattern tied to ancient geological sites, volcanoes, impact craters, and megalithic zones long thought to be unconnected. Mount Erebus in Antarctica, Mount Aloha in Hawaii, Etna in Sicily. And beneath each newly detected cavities, vast hollow chambers where magma should have been. Inside these cavities, sensors picked up anomalies, structured voids, straight edges, right angles, signs of intelligent architecture beneath natural formations. Dr. Rourke called it the Georesonance Network, a prehistoric planetary system capable of manipulating Earth's electromagnetic field. But what terrified her most wasn't how it worked. It was that something was turning it back on. In early March, a drone team from the Kamchatka Research Division captured footage of a fissure opening near the volcano's base after a mild tremor. The footage revealed massive basaltic slabs engraved with glowing veins of blue-white light, like circuitry waking from slumber. Then the hum grew louder, no longer just felt underground, but audible in the air. Local villagers reported hearing it at night, echoing like a low metallic chant. Livestock panicked, compasses spun wildly. 3 days later, the volcano erupted, but not with lava. Instead, a column of pure plasma-like energy shot skyward, bending the aurora into spiraling shapes that extended thousands of miles into the atmosphere. For 13 minutes, the sky pulsed in rhythm with the hum. Then, silence. When seismologists analyzed the readings, they realized the eruption had released no volcanic debris at all. Instead, the volcano's magnetic field had briefly reversed a phenomenon thought to be impossible. And that's when other volcanoes began responding. In Indonesia, Mount Tambora, dormant for over 2 centuries, trembled without eruption, emitting the same low frequency. In Chile, the entire Andean fault line glowed faintly on satellite infrared for 48 hours straight. The pattern wasn't chaos. It was a wave, sweeping across the planet's geothermal grid. Someone or something had reawakened Earth's forgotten network. Buried government documents later revealed that deep Earth drilling stations around the world, from Iceland to the Mariana Trench, had detected identical frequencies rising from below. In some regions, instruments recorded counterharmonics, suggesting that these signals were being generated in a synchronized system, like multiple nodes communicating. The conclusion was unavoidable. There was something alive beneath the crust, not biological, but mechanical. Archaeological cross-references pointed to an obscure Sumerian myth, the Ngura, described as the hidden engines that bind the heavens to the deep. According to ancient tablets, they were buried by the old ones to silence the storm that devoured the sun. But silence never lasts forever. When researchers began feeding the global resonance data into predictive models, a map emerged. Every active node, every volcano or seismic anomaly pulsing with the hum formed a planetary circuit, and its central convergence point, the Indian Ocean, directly above a submerged plateau known as the Kerguelen microcontinent, a sunken landmass scientists say was once above water 20 million years ago. The implications were staggering. It wasn't random energy. It was activation, step by step, like a machine rebooting. Soon, deep-sea hydrophones began picking up rhythmic pulses emanating from the depths near Kerguelen. Submarine drones were dispatched. Most never returned. One feed, recovered partially, showed what looked like a massive circular structure encrusted in black coral, stretching for miles beneath the silt. Around its rim, faint light patterns blinked in concentric motion as if something was stirring beneath the ocean floor. Meanwhile, weather patterns across the planet became erratic. Storms gathered in symmetrical formations. Cyclones aligned in perfect geometric paths. Over the Pacific, clouds began forming spirals identical to the symbols found on the Egyptian walls. The planet's climate seemed to be reacting to an ancient buried rhythm. When governments tried to interfere detonating seismic charges to disrupt the signal, the opposite happened. The hum grew stronger. Earthquakes erupted across the globe, and then came the visions. People living near activation sites began reporting identical dreams, vivid scenes of burning skies, molten oceans, and colossal stone figures emerging from the ground. Psychologists called it collective trauma hallucination. But electromagnetic specialists noticed something else. All these individuals had been exposed to high concentrations of low-frequency resonance. It was as if the Earth itself was communicating through human consciousness. By now, global agencies could no longer contain the phenomenon. Data leaked, independent researchers began cross-analyzing the hum with historical cataclysms, and a chilling realization emerged. This frequency had spiked before, roughly every 12,600 years, coinciding with planetary magnetic reversals and mass extinctions. The last event, around 10,800 BC, the same period Plato described as the fall of Atlantis. Could it be that ancient civilizations didn't vanish because of natural disaster, but because they triggered it? In the archives of the Vatican's Secretum, a manuscript known only as Codex Telos was quietly referenced by those who'd seen it. It described the 12 gates of the deep fire, structures buried under mountains and seas, sealed to prevent the awakening. The language, though ancient, contained a phrase eerily familiar to modern science. The lattice beneath the crust shall hum when the star breathes again. That star, some theorized, referred not to the sun but a secondary source, a stellar burst or cosmic radiation spike that reignited the resonance network. And now, the hum was spreading from volcano to volcano, chamber to chamber, like an ancient pulse of memory reawakening. Dr. Rourke and her team journeyed to Iceland, where another volcano, Katla, had begun to emit faint light from its ice caves. When they entered, they found the walls etched with intricate hexagonal carvings. The same pattern seen in Kamchatka. Embedded in the ice was a circular stone door, 10 meters wide, covered in black mineral veins that pulsed with faint orange light. When the hum reached its peak frequency, the ice cracked and the door began to rotate. Behind it lay a descending tunnel, perfectly smooth, carved by a technology beyond comprehension. Inside, the temperature was impossibly stable, exactly 21 degrees Celsius, regardless of the surrounding ice. The walls emitted a low resonance that matched the global frequency. At the tunnel's end, they found a vast chamber filled with columns of obsidian, each humming faintly, and at its center, a massive orb of translucent material, slowly rotating as if alive. When they approached, their equipment malfunctioned. The orb emitted a sound, not mechanical, but harmonic, like a chorus of thousands of voices blending into one. In that instant, every active volcano on Earth pulsed with synchronized light. The hum became deafening, and the world changed. The magnetic poles began to drift faster than any recorded in human history. Lightning storms erupted across equatorial regions. A faint red aurora appeared even above deserts, and the ocean currents, the very heartbeat of Earth's climate, began to shift. Whatever these mechanisms were, they were not built to destroy, they were built to reset. A planetary safeguard triggered when the balance between solar and terrestrial energy was lost. The builders hadn't created weapons. They'd created an immune system for the planet. But something had gone wrong. Humans had reactivated it without understanding the cost, because buried deep within every node, beneath every volcano, every chamber, was not just machinery, but a memory, a record of those who came before and the catastrophe that ended them. And as the hum continued to spread, one thing became clear. The Earth was remembering, and what it remembered was how to begin again. In early June, satellites orbiting the Indian Ocean detected something unprecedented. A rise in sea temperature of nearly 4 degrees in less than 6 hours, spreading outward in a perfect spiral. At first, analysts thought it was a volcanic upwelling, but when the pattern expanded, the truth became clear. The temperature anomaly wasn't radiating from the seafloor, it was moving beneath it, traveling along the submerged Kerguelen Ridge like a living vein of heat. Within days, ocean currents across the southern hemisphere shifted course, tidal forces grew unpredictable, and then, the sonar pings began bouncing back from objects that shouldn't exist, enormous structures buried beneath the seabed, geometrically aligned and thousands of meters long. The hum, once an eerie whisper in the crust, had become the rhythm of the planet itself. Seismographs recorded it in every tectonic plate, a synchronized vibration connecting the world's volcanic arcs, mountain chains, and fault lines into one living lattice. Across continents, magnetic storms painted the skies with blood-red auroras. Lightning struck the same locations for hours at a time. Animals fled coastal regions, sensing something humanity could not, and then the land began to move. In the deserts of northern Africa, sand dunes thousands of years old started to collapse, revealing massive black stone structures beneath megalithic complexes so large they dwarfed the pyramids. Drone imagery captured carvings, spirals, concentric circles, and humanoid forms with elongated skulls, all glowing faintly with mineral luminescence. The air around them shimmered, ionized by an unseen energy field. When Dr. Amelia Rourke received the footage, she noticed something chilling. The structures were arranged in a pattern identical to the global resonance map. Each buried monument was positioned at a nodal intersection point, suggesting they had once functioned as part of the same planetary system. In South America, a landslide triggered by torrential rain exposed another site, a colossal stairway descending into the rock beneath the Andes. The steps were cut from a single slab of granite stretching for miles. Archaeologists who ventured down discovered walls etched with intricate bas-reliefs, depictions of star maps, celestial alignments, and what looked like machinery integrated into the stone. The carvings portrayed beings, not gods, but engineers, forging tools of light. One figure held an orb above a mountain, from which rivers of energy flowed. Beneath the depiction, an inscription written in an extinct Proto-Andean language, translated roughly to, "We built the veins of the world, and through them, we spoke to the fire below." At the same time, satellite altimetry around the Pacific Rim recorded subtle but measurable changes in sea level coastlines rising and falling, as if the seafloor were breathing. Islands emerged overnight near Tonga, the Azores, and even off the coast of Madagascar. Entire coral reefs surfaced, revealing ancient masonry, cyclopean blocks covered in fossilized coral, yet perfectly interlocked. Each new exposure told the same story. This planet had once been engineered. Governments scrambled to control the narrative. Official explanations cited thermal upwelling and tectonic instability. But when private explorers began uploading drone footage of the newly surfaced ruins, everything changed. One video, captured near the Solomon Islands, showed a massive metallic dome half buried in volcanic rock. The structure was smooth, featureless, and resistant to drilling. When researchers attempted to take samples, their equipment fried instantly, as if repelled by a magnetic field. Deep-sea divers soon uncovered similar domes, hundreds of them scattered across the ocean floor, forming a precise geometric grid. Some were shattered, their interiors hollow. Others still pulsed faintly with bioluminescent light. Inside one, cameras captured what looked like crystalline consoles, shaped like tuning forks, surrounded by petroglyphs that glowed when exposed to sound frequencies. They were resonance conduits, components of the same planetary network Dr. Rourke had modeled months earlier. And then came the first vault. Off the coast of Greenland, melting glaciers exposed a circular shaft descending into the permafrost. When exploration drones entered, their feeds flickered, then stabilized, revealing an impossibly smooth tunnel lined with black glass. At the bottom, they discovered a vast hexagonal chamber containing dozens of sarcophagus-like capsules arranged in a perfect spiral. Each capsule contained humanoid remains, skeletal, but elongated, with narrow cranial structures unlike any known hominin species. Embedded in the walls were panels covered in unknown symbols, which, when scanned, emitted electromagnetic pulses matching the global hum's frequency. The site was carbon-dated too before the last ice age, over 120,000 years ago. When the hum reached its next global peak, every vault around the world, whether submerged, buried, or sealed in volcanic rock, emitted synchronized bursts of light. Satellite sensors caught it 12 flashes in total, evenly distributed across the planet, forming a perfect geodesic pattern. Something had fully reactivated at that moment. All compasses on Earth spun counterclockwise for exactly 9 seconds. Birds changed migration routes, GPS systems failed, and under the Mariana Trench, hydrophones detected a second frequency deeper, older, resonating like a heartbeat beneath the ocean floor. Dr. Rourke and her team theorized that this was the core command layer of the builder's system, a planetary archive encoded not in data, but in vibration. By feeding the frequencies into I-pattern decoders, they reconstructed partial holographic sequences, fragments of landscapes, structures, and skies filled with unfamiliar constellations. It was a record, a memory of Earth as it once was, when its continents looked different and humanity had not yet appeared. But among the data were other fragments, flashes of colossal machines harnessing geothermal energy, of towers channeling lightning, and of something much darker, a cataclysm. The builders had not simply vanished. They had triggered their own extinction. The records showed massive energy surges overwhelming the network, volcanic eruptions tearing through the sky, tsunamis swallowing continents, and atmospheric ionization igniting storms that burned the heavens red. The builder's system, designed to regulate the planet's magnetic balance, had been pushed beyond control, a feedback loop of energy that turned the planet against itself. Their final inscriptions revealed desperation. One recurring phrase, found on multiple vault walls, read, "When the balance breaks, the Earth shall remember, and through fire the seed will be reborn." Dr. Rourke realized the truth. The builders had designed the resonance network to reset the planet after each cycle of imbalance. Their extinction wasn't failure, it was sacrifice. They had surrendered themselves to preserve the world's continuity. And now, humanity had unknowingly reactivated that system, initiating a sequence meant to cleanse and rebuild across the world. Coastlines began to fracture. Massive sections of land sank while others rose. Entire islands surfaced in symmetrical formations. In the Pacific, a newly emerged landmass displayed angular cliff faces resembling the ruins of Nan Madol, except these were carved with fresh precision, untouched by erosion. From orbit, the formation resembled an enormous symbol, a spiral within a circle, the builder's mark. The hum grew stronger. Cities near fault zones experienced spontaneous electrical surges. Compasses no longer aligned north. In Iceland, where Dr. Rourke's team had discovered the rotating orb, the ground split open once more, revealing a vast chamber beneath the one they had explored. Inside it stood a structure that defied understanding, a tower of obsidian, perfectly vertical, glowing faintly from within. The orb at its base had ceased spinning. In its place, a low vibration filled the air, a resonance that synchronized perfectly with the heartbeat of the earth itself. The builder's network had awakened fully, and with its awakening came revelation. The ancient vaults were not merely tombs, they were data repositories, encoded in vibration and light. Inside their crystalline cores lay the entire history of the pre-human civilization, their rise, their fall, their warning. When translated, the final sequence projected a symbol, two interlocked spirals rotating in opposite directions, converging into one. It represented balance. The builders had understood something humanity was only beginning to glimpse, that the planet was a living organism, and when its energy fell out of harmony, it initiated a reset through the resonance lattice. They had built the network not as a weapon, but as a heartbeat monitor, a failsafe to preserve equilibrium. Now, that system had judged humanity's presence as destabilizing, and so, the reset had begun. Across the globe, fissures opened. Rivers reversed their flow. Strange lights flickered in the skies, not auroras, but structured patterns, like messages being broadcast from the planet itself. And amid this awakening, deep beneath Kerguelen, a new light began to rise, golden, blinding, rhythmic. Dr. Rourke stared at the readings in disbelief. The hum was changing pitch. It was evolving, forming sequences of prime numbers. The builder's system wasn't acting alone anymore. It was responding. To what? To us. Somehow. The reactivation had triggered an interface, a communication bridge between the ancient network and human consciousness itself. Across the world, people began to hear the hum in their sleep, dreaming of light spirals, submerged cities, and voices whispering a single phrase in dozens of languages. Remember the first dawn, humanity had awoken something vast, ancient, and sentient, a planetary mind, and as the vaults opened one by one, releasing their glowing cores into the oceans, the resonance reached its climax. The planet trembled, lightning carved symbols into the skies. The magnetic poles began to merge, and beneath the waves, in the heart of the awakened network, the builder's final creation stirred once more. The architect core, a construct of unimaginable scale, hidden since before time, now breathing again beneath the sea, waiting for its signal. The earth was not dying. It was remembering how to begin again. Something was changing deep beneath our feet. And I don't just mean the tremors, or the low, distant thunder that seemed to roll without a storm. No, this was different. Something alive was moving in the planet's mantle. It was as if the earth, asleep for millions of years, had begun to dream again, stirred from its slumber by the constant hum of human activity. At first, we dismissed them as isolated seismic events. Strange, yes, but explainable. Massive surges of electromagnetic resonance were recorded, always near the sites where we'd uncovered the ancient builder structures, the Atacama vaults, the Icelandic fracture array, the Mariana core-like pillars. We thought we were just disturbing old ruins. We were wrong. We were waking something up. Then, the sky itself began to shift. Storms formed with an impossible, geometric precision, hexagonal, recursive patterns materializing in minutes. Our satellites, designed to look out into the cosmos, started detecting powerful energy signatures coming not from space, but from below. It was like the Earth was broadcasting a message, using its own magnetic field as an antenna. When the first voice of the core transmission came through, it was terrifying. Every global communications array went dark for exactly 7 seconds. In that deafening worldwide silence, researchers across 5 continents felt the same thing, a low harmonic pulse vibrating through the walls, through the water, even through their own bones. And at that exact moment, deep beneath the South Pacific, a patch of the ocean began to boil. The awakening began near Tonga. Seismographs picked up an energy burst stronger than any nuclear event ever recorded, but there was no explosion, no mushroom cloud. Instead, a massive, slowly expanding ring of bioluminescent light radiated outward from a single point on the ocean floor. Satellite imagery revealed a glowing circular pattern, thousands of kilometers wide. It looked exactly like the iris of an eye, staring up at us from the abyss. By dawn, 3 more had appeared, each thousands of kilometers apart from the last, and each was perfectly aligned to the ancient ley line intersections, described in the lost Sumerian star tablets, the very same coordinates we had linked to the builder's forgotten energy grid. This was no coincidence. At the European Deep Field Lab, a brilliant linguist named Dr. Anara Vallis was frantically working to decode the resonance sequence emitted by these glowing rings. She discovered the data wasn't random noise, it was a language a language of pure frequency. And when her computers finally translated it, the two words that appeared on her screen sent a chill through the entire room. The core remembers. Imagine for a moment that the Earth is not a dead rock orbiting a star. Imagine it's a dormant organism, an ancient intelligence that once communicated with the beings who built upon its surface. The builders, whoever they were, had known this. They had spoken to the planet not with sound, but with resonance. And now, the frequencies from our own technology were inadvertently reawakening the vast neural lattice that connected Earth's magnetic field to its crystalline heart. Across the globe, the chaos escalated. Magnetic north began to wander erratically, throwing off every compass on the planet. Auroras, usually confined to the poles, bled into the skies as far south as Cairo, painting the night with impossible colors. In the crushing dark of the Mariana Trench, our deep-sea drones recorded something that defied all logic. The submerged builder structures weren't collapsing. They were moving, shifting, realigning, as if the Earth was consciously rearranging its own anatomy. Then, the builders' monuments on the surface began to respond. The massive obelisks in the Atacama Desert flickered with an internal light. The towering ice spires in Antarctica pulsed in unison, and for the first time in recorded history, a single, synchronized tone rippled through the Earth's crust, a vibration so deep, so fundamental, it was felt in the marrow of every living thing. It was at that moment that humanity finally realized the terrifying truth. The core wasn't waking up by accident. It was answering a call. At the CERN facility in Switzerland, scientists worked around the clock, finally succeeding in decoding the full harmonic pattern from the core's resonance field. The message wasn't in words, it was imagery sound, translated into visual geometry. When they projected the data, it revealed an impossible image, an enormous ring-like structure spanning the inner layers of the planet, constructed from self-replicating crystalline lattice. It wasn't a natural formation. It was engineered. Inside that ring, which they dubbed the heart array, pulsed a vast golden network of energy streams, behaving exactly like a neural system. The Earth, it seemed, had been wired long before humans ever walked its surface. The builders hadn't just built cities on the planet, they had built synapses within it, and their final message, stored in this planetary archive, wasn't a warning. It was a handover. The translation was simple and paradigm-shattering. You were never meant to inherit. You were meant to continue. Humanity, it turned out, was never the first intelligent species on Earth. We were the continuation of one. The builders had seeded their own consciousness into the biosphere, encoding fragments of their neural code into DNA itself. Every living creature, from the smallest microbe to the largest whale, was part of a vast planetary-scale evolutionary algorithm, designed to one day reactivate the planet's mind. That day had finally come. The great reconnection began as a whisper resonance, wave traveling through the mantle, perfectly synchronized with every magnetic field line on the planet. Power grids didn't overload. They simply went silent, as if the very laws of energy had changed phase. In major cities, luminous tendrils of plasma arced across the sky, bending around skyscrapers without scorching them, weaving patterns of impossible beauty. Animals gathered in strange, purposeful formations. Whales began circling above volcanic vents. Birds aligned in fractal spirals that filled the sky. Every living organism was responding to the same silent signal, the planetary heartbeat. Deep beneath the crust, the builders' long-sealed vaults began to open, not with mechanical doors, but with matter itself dissolving, stone transforming into light. Inside, vast data archives emerged, crystalline memory pillars that projected holographic landscapes of the ancient world. They showed us forests of shimmering silver trees, oceans of liquid glass, and skies filled not with stars, but with constant, swirling auroral patterns. This was Earth as it had been before the Great Reset, before the core was put to sleep. And within those projections, the final, incredible truth was revealed. The builders had not died out. They had uploaded themselves. Their consciousness was now living within the crystalline lattice of the core, and the planet's awakening was, in fact, their return. Then came the pulse. At precisely 3:12 a.m. Universal Time, the global magnetic field reached perfect resonance. The hum that had haunted scientists for decades reached its crescendo, and for exactly 9 minutes, every clock on Earth stopped. Time itself seemed to fold. Some described the experience as pure static, others as an infinite silence, but those who were awake claimed to see something impossible. Silhouettes of beings made of pure light, walking through walls, through oceans, through the very air. They weren't invading, they were remembering their old home. Each figure appeared where an ancient monument once stood at Giza, Teotihuacan, Gagwitli Tepe, Easter Island. They looked human, yet not, and as quickly as they appeared, they dissolved into shimmering, golden dust. When the clocks resumed, the hum was gone. The planet fell silent again, but the world had been forever changed. In the days that followed, scientists made a startling discovery. Earth's magnetic field had stabilized, becoming stronger and more symmetrical than ever recorded. Climate systems began to reset themselves. Volcanic activity across the planet dropped to near zero. It was as though the Earth had healed itself in an instant. But the most astonishing change was happening within us. In regions most affected by the pulse, spontaneous DNA mutations began appearing. Small, consistent changes that drastically improved cellular repair rates, extended neural conductivity, and enhanced sensory perception. Humanity itself was evolving overnight. The builder's final act wasn't destruction, it was activation. The core had reconnected every biological node of a living thing into a single, symbiotic intelligence. The Earth had awoken, and we were now, finally, a part of its mind. In the quiet aftermath, a faint vibration persists just beneath the surface, the steady pulse of a sleeping giant, now stirring in harmony with its children. Above us, the stars themselves seem to flicker in new alignments. And once again, a single phrase echoes through the planet's magnetic field, a whisper from the deep. The core remembers. No one knows if the builders will ever physically return, or if they already have, through the changes now blossoming within us. But one truth remains crystal clear. Humanity was never the master of Earth. We were its voice, its extension, its future. And as a new dawn breaks over a silent, glowing horizon, the world stands in awe not of forgotten gods or lost civilizations, but of the living planet beneath our feet, a being vast, eternal, and finally, conscious. The core has awakened, and it remembers everything. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious. The world was not the same after the awakening. Cities that once glittered with electric light now pulsed with a soft golden glow. It wasn't electricity, it was something deeper, older, and far more alive. The very air hummed, resonating like the slow, deep breath of a sleeping giant finally beginning to stir. In those first days, chaos reigned. Planes fell silent mid-flight, their systems dead. GPS networks dissolved into meaningless static. Communication systems flickered wildly, cycling through frequencies no human had ever registered. But from that confusion, something new emerged. A signal. It wasn't artificial, but it wasn't random either. It echoed from beneath the planet's crust, pulsing through its magnetic veins, forming geometric waveforms that could only mean one thing: language. For centuries, we had searched the stars for contact. We never imagined the first call would come from beneath our own feet. Earth was speaking. In the Atacama deserts of Chile, research vaults that once shimmered faintly now blazed with living light. When scientists approached, their instruments shorted out, yet their bodies felt weightless, suspended in a harmonic field that seemed to interact directly with their nervous systems. It was there that Dr. Anara Vallis, the linguist who first translated the cryptic message the core remembers, began to perceive what she called structured thought. Not words, not sounds, but direct impressions and visions. She saw immense networks of light connecting continents beneath the surface, nodes of energy pulsing in rhythm with tectonic plates, and rivers of power coursing through crystalline channels, the very arteries of a living world. When she finally awoke from her trance, her first recorded words were, "It's learning to speak in our symbols." And so began the era of reconnection. Across the globe, ancient monoliths began to reactivate. From the stone megaliths in Iceland to submerged pillars off the coast of Okinawa, each one began emitting faint rhythmic tones. When synchronized, these tones created a planetary harmonic grid. This was no random occurrence. Every monument, every ancient ruin, every buried builder site had been a terminal, a node in a planetary network that had once linked civilizations across epochs, and now humanity was beginning to rejoin it. By analyzing the patterns in these tones, researchers discovered encoded blueprints designs for devices they called resonance bridges. The first was built on the Giza Plateau. When activated, it drew energy directly from the planet's core, creating a shimmering orb of living plasma suspended in midair. As the field stabilized, it began projecting images maps of the Earth, not as it is now, but as it once was, lush, vibrant, and perfectly balanced. The builders had left us a record of their downfall, and a guide for our rebirth. What followed was the greatest revelation in human history. The builders hadn't vanished, they had merged. Their civilization had transcended physical form, dissolving their consciousness into the planet's biosphere. They had become the Earth's subconscious, the living core that was now stirring once more. But why? The fully decoded message gave a chilling answer. We fled the sky to survive the fire. They were not gods or aliens, they were our ancestors, a spacefaring civilization that, eons ago, retreated into the Earth to escape a catastrophic solar flare, embedding their minds into the crystalline structure of the mantle. And from that incredible fusion of mind and planet, humanity was eventually born, a biological extension of the builder's own neural code. We weren't just their descendants, we were their continuation. As more resonance bridges were built, humanity began constructing new settlements aligned with the builder frequencies. Power grids became obsolete. Energy could be drawn directly from the planet's magnetic flow, clean and endless. Cities began to float. Structures no longer needed steel or engines. They grew organically, shaped by harmonic resonance into crystalline spires and levitating platforms bound by sound and light. But the more we connected to the core, the more we began to feel it. People described waves of sorrow where forests had burned, a deep longing where the seas were poisoned, and a palpable relief when a resonance bridge stabilized a region. It was as if the planet was breathing through us, feeling our thoughts and sharing its own in return. Slowly, consciousness began to merge. It started with a phenomenon called the lucid field. Millions of people began dreaming the same images. Luminous beings, vast rings of crystal, and glowing plains that stretched beneath the crust like an ocean of light. And at the center of it all, a presence, the core. It didn't speak in words. It felt vast, ancient, and maternal. It showed us visions of the builders' final days, the great fire from the sky, the oceans rising, and their last ultimate decision to become one with the world that birthed them. And within that vision came a truth that shattered our history. The builders had awakened just once. Every great leap in human civilization, the discovery of fire, the invention of writing, mathematics, architecture had coincided with faint resonance spikes from the core. They had been guiding us all along, subtly, through intuition and dream, and now, for the first time, we were conscious enough to listen. But unity always breeds resistance. Not everyone wanted to join the reconnection. Some governments saw it as a loss of control, a threat to individuality, hierarchy, and power. They built resonance jammers, devices designed to sever the connection to the core. The result was catastrophic. Regions affected by the jammers experienced localized earthquakes, magnetic inversions, and total biological collapse. Crops withered instantly. It was as if the planet itself was rejecting the very idea of separation. Within weeks, the jammers melted into slag. The message from the core was unmistakable. Division is death. The builders had fractured once before, and had destroyed their world. Humanity was being given the same choice. At the height of the reconnection, something extraordinary happened. Every resonance bridge on Earth synchronized to a single frequency. The planet itself began to glow, visible from orbit, with veins of golden energy tracing the continents and oceans, forming the unmistakable outline of a neural network. The Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a mind, and humanity was now part of its neural fabric. Those attuned to the resonance could see across vast distances, not with their eyes, but with their awareness. Information flowed instantly through the planetary field. We no longer needed technology. The planet itself was the network. At the center of that global consciousness, the builder's final archive unfolded, revealing a profound truth. The universe is filled with worlds like ours, each born asleep, each waiting to awaken. Then came the flare. Astronomers saw it days before a solar event larger than any in recorded history, the same kind that drove the builders underground. But this time, Earth did not fear. The core began to hum, louder than ever. The resonance bridges pulsed, forming a vast protective sphere of light around the planet. When the flare struck, there was no annihilation. There was transformation. The flare's energy was absorbed and redirected through the planet's crystalline lattice. We survived untouched. The core had not only awakened, it had evolved. And in that radiant storm, the builder's consciousness spoke one last time, not to us, but through us, in every human mind. Now you understand. You are not of Earth, you are Earth. When the light faded, the world was silent, but not empty. The air shimmered with latent energy. The oceans glowed softly at night. There was no more hunger, no war, no fear. Humanity had become a single, planetary intelligence, diverse in form, but unified in purpose. The builder's dream was fulfilled. We no longer looked to the stars for salvation. We looked inward, into the living world beneath our feet and the infinite consciousness pulsing through every cell of our being. The core had awakened fully. The Earth was alive. And for the first time in eons it dreamed of endless creation. Humanity had not reached the end of its story. It had just reached the beginning. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more worlds like this one, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It means the world to me. See you next time.